Hey guys, welcome to another episode of Foresight TV. I am so excited. Actually, this is one of my favorite things. Darryl Fisher was with me today, and you posted on LinkedIn yesterday about this, saying that we're going to talk about two of your favorite things, aviation and senior living. And those are kind of my things too. I guess I'm technically an ex-pilot now and an ex-flight instructor, but it's something that I still continue to dream about and think about. And so we're going to jump into our conversation, but first, this. Hey guys, Steve Moran here. Welcome.
Hey, Steve.
I am really pumped up about you being here. I actually need to take care of just a little bit of business. I want to talk about this particular episode is made possible in part because of the support of KARE. This is KARE with a K. You know them. They are orange everywhere. KARE is the app that connects caregivers and nurses with senior care and post-acute care communities. And if you are somebody who is looking to pick up some extra shifts and you are a nurse or a caregiver, you should be talking to them. They are great folks to work with. And if you are an operator who is needing to backfill some of your staffing, they are a great organization to help you do that at a price that's much, much lower than what you would pay for a traditional agency. So I appreciate their support a ton. Darryl, welcome. Happy Friday. And first thing I want to ask you two things. The first thing is I'd like to have you just talk a little bit about who you are and these passions you have. And it looks suspiciously like you are in a senior living community apartment right now.
Actually, it's funny, Steve. I'm traveling for Dream Flights right now, and my mother lives in Salem, Oregon, and I've got a Dream Flights function tonight with Vital Life Foundation up in Portland. And so I came up and I stayed overnight with my mother in her senior living community. So at least for the last 24 hours, I've been living in a community. So it's kind of fun. But no, my passion, I have two passions, seniors and aviation are my passions. And it started before I was born because both of my grandparents were pilots, private pilots. And when I was 2 years old in 1965, they got into the senior living business. And so I've grown up my entire life around seniors and aviation, which is a very unusual combination. And I've developed passions for both. And I got to be the luckiest guy in the world because that's what I get paid to do. I mean, I don't, not on the foundation. I get paid in satisfaction at Dream Flights, but I've been in the senior living profession for over 30 years now, and it's just an incredible thing that we get to do, make a difference in our seniors' lives every day. So I get to fulfill my two passions every single day.
That is terrific. So let's talk about your senior living organization and kind of how you see the senior living world right now. And then let's talk some more about Dream Flights and what you're doing. And it's what you're doing is really cool. And so I want to sort of save that to last. I mean, not that senior living isn't cool, right? But it's sort of cooler than senior living, maybe. Okay, so let's talk a little bit about your organization. What's your organization? How big are you? What's your secret sauce?
Well, we started about 12 years ago, Mission Senior Living, and I'm one of the founders and the president of Mission. And we have 6 communities in 4 states in the West. We typically we have our own construction company, so we build our own senior living communities, and then we own and operate them. And we've just found that system works the best and allows us to fulfill our mission. And honestly, our secret sauce is 6 words, and it's our mission statement. It's caring people, serving people, improving lives. So, in those 6 words, it tells who we are, what we're doing, and why. That's it. It's just that simple.
You are such a inspiration to me, and you are so unusual in the world of senior living. Not really the world of senior living, in the world of business. We do, as you know, we spend a lot of time talking about leadership and how you create cultures where people love coming to work every day. And it's something that I try to live out in my organization. And we have this mission vision of making the lives of people who live in and work in senior living better. And yet when I talk to leaders and I say, well, tell me about your mission statement, mostly they are so long and so convoluted and so unclear that they can't tell me what their own mission statement is. And um, and it's terrible because I mean it sounds I used to think these things were trivial, but they're actually very powerful because they're the North Star that you shoot towards all the time, right? And you reinforce it and you look for opportunities to talk about where you've fulfilled that mission, and sometimes you have opportunities to talk about where you missed on it. And so you've like made my whole week with just that one little bit.
Well, it's simple. And I will say, Steve, culture is very difficult. It's incredibly important and it's incredibly difficult to pull off. And I've been through some very unique business experiences in senior living, as you know, and it became a very powerful example of why culture is important. And so, let me just give you a really quick example. We work on culture every day in our communities, and then corporately every single week on our leadership calls every Friday at 9 a.m. Pacific. And we have a team in, we just, one of our teams in Farmington, New Mexico, just told a story about our new caregiver, okay, Sheila, who found out that our resident, a fairly new resident, Judy, needed ice trays for her freezer. She didn't have any ice trays. Her son was out of town. And Sheila went and bought them for her. Okay, so you think about that in context with caring people, serving people, improving lives. It's just, there you go. So
Yeah.
we've had a very purposeful, specific effort empowering our team members to take control and fulfill our mission in people's lives. And all she had to do was turn that receipt in and we reimbursed her for it.
Yeah. So one of the things I want to say here is that Darryl and I did not prep for this, and I didn't set him up to give me all these softball questions because it's like you're reading my mind right now. The other thing that I'm really focused on is storytelling that reinforces the mission, right? And when I talk to leaders and I say, well, tell me a story about, how you've made an impact on a resident, on a team member, how you really lived out your mission. And mostly it gets blank. And the reason I think that one of the big reasons why they draw blanks is they're looking for these big, huge, massive stories that they tell. And the truth of the matter is the big, massive stories, those kinds of major stories don't happen very often.
No,
They
it's the
maybe once a year you have this big, you could do a 7 or 8 minute story on, but buying ice trays when you're doing your culture right, there are 100 of those every week. But what happens is people think they're too small to tell. And
no,
those are the exact stories you should capture, right?
no. The other story. I mean, I'm not making this stuff up, Steve. This just literally happened, an hour and a half ago. At our community in Clovis, New Mexico, Devin, our caregiver, walked in, and the resident, Miss Jean, she dropped her lipstick. Okay, it came out of the. I'm not into that, but it came out of it and fell on the floor, and she was devastated because that's important to her, right? So Devin, based on our culture and based on our MVP actions, Devin went to Walmart, took her lipstick case, went to Walmart, got her the same lipstick and brought it back to her. And I wish I could show you the picture of her face. So it's those little things. And Devin did that on his own. We didn't ask him to do it. We unlocked the checkbook, Steve, is what we did, because we said, go buy these things, make our residents day, fulfill our mission, turn in the receipt, we'll pay for it.
Yeah, and what happens is not only do you have this story to tell about your culture, it becomes part of your marketing. It becomes stories that families tell about how different you are.
Yeah.
And it is just, and there's such little things. They cost you almost nothing. They make your team members love working as part of your organization to be able to do that, right?
Yeah. Well, look, it doesn't, there's no perfect solution, right? But it gets, what happens is you take people that want to be caregivers, that want to be in an environment where they can make things happen, they can make a difference in people's lives. Those people then want to stay with you.
Yeah,
That's
yeah,
because
yeah,
you provide an environment that they can take control of and maximize their autonomy.
yeah, yeah, yeah.
So
No,
so
that is
so literally put yourself in my position. Okay. Now I'm getting ready to go give dream flights in New Hampshire, um, New York and Ohio this next week. But in my business, which is awesome, I'll have a great time doing that and I'll see people change right in front of my eyes. But I just heard two stories that I knew nothing about, but creating a culture that celebrates and allows those things to happen is amazing. I mean, it made my day.
Yeah, you made my day. And so I just love that. So as you look at the senior living space right now, there's a lot of chaos. And one of the things that I find myself frustrated by, struggling with, is that when I go sit in conferences and when I look at a lot of, frankly, I look at media publications, there's sort of this big public noise that everything is a lot better, things are getting better, wonderful. But then when I have conversations behind the scenes with people, it is, oh man, we are getting our tail kicked. And
Yeah.
these are people who I know are just, like you, are just tremendous operators. And so are you optimistic about the next 12, 24, 5 years, or what do you think?
Well, here's what I think. I mean, this may sound kind of funny, but I try to simplify it. One of our 7 core principles is simplicity because everything's too complicated today. And so, what I do know, Steve, if we continue to delight our residents and our customers and our team members, and we allow them to make a difference in people's lives, whether it's COVID, whether it's labor force, whether it's um, you know big interest rates right now and inflation and all the problems we face, it those things are going to happen. But when we delight our customers, they will take care of us. I just don't know. And yes, we have problems. I mean, I got all kinds of problems. I mean, just from a business standpoint, all kinds of challenges, I would say.
Yeah,
COVID, we're a small company. COVID cost us $5 million. Well, I didn't have
yeah,
$5 million. So, but it worked out. I mean, we recovered the year after it. Things happened, and it will always work out. This is my belief. It will always work out if you're trying to focus on your resident or customer or team members, whoever that happens to be, and you're making a difference in their lives. You're relevant that way. People will pay for that.
yep, absolutely. So let's talk a little bit about dream flights. I want to hear. Maybe let's start with sort of your how did this whole thing get started?
It got started, Steve, quite by accident. I told you my grandparents were pilots. Well, my father was a pilot, and so I've been around airplanes. They're almost like cars to me, just part of the family, right? Just what you do. And so my dad had this old biplane that he had restored in Mississippi back in, he'd had it since 1982 and it was derelict. He had it restored in Mississippi, and he called me in 2011 and said, hey, um, will you go back to Mississippi, because he'd lost his medical, and fly with me back to Oregon, and pick it up. And this is a brand new biplane. I mean, this is his baby, and it's beautiful. He just spent tons of money on it. And so I got this idea. I was just coming off of SunWest, all of the meltdown. I was tired. I was unemployed. And I just needed something like that. So I got this crazy idea. I said, Dad, we've got to make like 15 gas stops on the way back. Well, at SunWest, we operated in 38 states. So I thought, I should call some of the administrators that really stood behind us during that tumultuous time and find out if they have a veteran they'd like to bring out, and I'll give them a flight. It's like, what the heck, right? So I kind of sprung this on my dad at the last minute. And it's funny because Dad, hey, I got this idea. What do you think about it? And he goes, well, that's fantastic. Let's do it. And I said, well, there's one little problem. I don't have any money. It's going to cost a lot of extra fuel. You're going to have to pay for it. And he goes, I'm in. So we literally, my first flight was in Oxford, Mississippi. Hugh Newton, World War II veteran. Hugh loved his flight. The media was there. There was 20 people from the community, his family. His wife came up to me after the flight, put her hand on my shoulder and said, you have no idea what you've just done for my husband. And the next day, my dad and I get up out of the hotel room, and they used to deliver newspapers to the hotels. And I looked down, and there we're on the front page of the newspaper. And it was just this magical experience. And so we gave 25 flights on the way back. I had no concept of starting a nonprofit. I had no concept of doing this, but every day we gave flights. I'd send the pictures back to my wife, and I'd go on and be excited about it. So when we get back, she goes, we got to keep doing this. And so she's a legal professional, an accountant and whatnot. So she filed all of our nonprofit paperwork, and she made me promise. She goes, no money, no flying. So you can do the flying, but you got to raise the money. And so this month, literally in Urbana, Ohio, we're going to give our 6,000th flight.
Wow.
Yeah, it's absolutely been a phenomenal journey.
And so now is it all with this one airplane?
No, we've had 5 airplanes donated to us over the last few years, and so we operate 7 airplanes. We don't use them all the time, but one's a training airplane. We have Dream Flights University in Castroville, Texas. The city gave us a hangar, and we have instructors. So we do all of our training in Texas, and then we fly 3 or 4 of the planes around the country. We'll probably give 800 Dream Flights this year.
Wow. And so what is this? So let's actually talk a little bit about the airplane first, right? So talk to me a little bit about the airplanes that you're flying in.
Well, these airplanes are World War II trainers. So if you were 18 in 1942 and you signed up for the Army Air Corps and you walked out to the airport, this airplane, this biplane, would be the first airplane you learned to fly in. Literally, it was a primary trainer. And so it's very historic. And the biplanes we found are very similar to convertibles. Everybody loves a convertible. So it doesn't matter how old you are or whether you were connected to the war or not. It's cool to fly in a biplane. So
So they're open cockpit.
yeah, yeah.
Oh,
And they're 80
and
80-year-old airplanes flying 80-year-old, 90, 100-year-old seniors and veterans, and still serving. They're literally still serving their country today, 80 years later.
yeah, and these are and they're not fast airplanes, right? They go what
No,
100 knots an hour or something like that, 110.
oh, no. They're like 80, 85.
Yeah.
They're slow, but they're just the experience is just pretty pretty remarkable, particularly if you're 80, 90, or 100.
Yeah. Yeah, because you probably, if you're at that age, you probably saw these things flying in action, as a kid, right? Or
Oh,
a young person.
right. If you're in your 90s, you saw them at the air bases and things flying. If you're younger than that, you saw them crop dusting, because all of America was, they used these for crop dusters all over America up until 1980.
Yeah. Yeah. And so the other question I have is I mean, they're kind of hard to get in and out of, right? So does that mean you have to be pretty able-bodied in order to get in, or what's that like?
You know, I, out of the 6,000 flights, I've personally probably given, over 1,500. I know I've given over 1,500 flights, and I can count on one hand the amount of people that we haven't been able to get in the airplane. It actually, Steve, is very easy to get in the airplane. It looks difficult, but the techniques and the way we do it, it's very simple. And then just 2 weeks ago, I was in Tulsa, Oklahoma, giving a flight to a Vietnam veteran that had some significant health problems. He couldn't, he was in a wheelchair. We have a little sling with handles on it, and four of us we slid it under him, and we just lifted him right into the airplane, slick as a whistle. We posted that one on Facebook. Um, and so people limit themselves. They think, oh, I can't get in the airplane. That's not true. It really, very, very unusual when we can't get somebody in an airplane.
Right. And the people you're giving rides to are all veterans, is that correct?
Well, here's our mission. Our mission is to fly seniors and veterans in nursing homes, assisted living centers, and retirement centers. Now, what um, we ask communities to give priority to veterans, because we want to, they've done so much for us. When you hear the stories I've heard, you would understand why, because the sacrifices those people have made are profound. So, but a lot of times, so I would say 85% of our dream flyers are veterans. We do fly some. We were up in Nebraska, and we flew a lady whose husband had been in World War II, and he wrote her letters. And this sends chills up my back to this day. She had this little Ziploc bag with his letters in it, and she wanted to fly with those letters and be closer to him.
That is really cool.
Yeah.
Well, first of all, I will say that I have been in a ride. I got to ride with Darryl. He even let me take the stick and fly it a little bit since I guess I'm technically still a pilot,
You
right?
are.
Because my license never expires.
That's right. I wanted to, I didn't want to publicly correct you, but once you're a pilot, you are always a pilot. You're just not current.
I'm just not current. That's exactly right. All I need to do is go get a medical and and get recurrent training and do my biennial. Is it still a biennial? Is that what you do?
Well, they don't, they call it a flight review. They don't call it a biannual flight review. It's just a flight review, and it's every two.
Okay,
Yeah.
every 2 years. So anyway, and I'd be good to go. Maybe I could become one of your pilots.
Hey, we need
So
pilots.
I if I'm a senior living operator and I'm watching this and I'm thinking, man, I'd like to be able to do something like this for my residents. Like, what's it cost?
We don't charge. There's no charge to our veterans and our senior veterans to fly in the airplane. We do this. And here's the deal, Steve. When you introduce money to any equation, it complicates things, right? So what we want, our pilots are volunteer pilots. We're not charging for flights. We are there giving a gift that is as pure as we can give. There's no strings attached. We're thanking our veterans and seniors for what they've done for us. So we've tried really hard to remove that from it. Now we need donations, but we're not out there fundraising specifically with communities. What I try to do is work with senior living companies and become partners with them. And then, because they're supporting our profession. I mean, they're by supporting us, we're I mean, we've been on every news. We get tons. There was 4 news stations in different cities and 2 newspapers when I was in Oklahoma. We're promoting the great things that senior living operators do for their residents. That's what we're doing. And so we're asking companies out there, bigger companies, to support us because we're supporting them.
And it makes sense. And honestly, I mean, it's a good thing, but it doesn't mean you shouldn't. Is this too crass to say? You shouldn't hesitate to use this for business purposes, right? I mean, you
Well,
get the local newspaper or the local TV show out to do that, and it demonstrates your passion for veterans. It demonstrates your passion for your residents, for your team members, and those kinds of things. And I'm going to sort of tell a personal story. I was talking to my dad, who passed away just a little over a year ago, but this was about 18 or 24 months ago, and we just sort of, he knew that he was coming close to the end of his life, and we were talking, and he said, "Man, I'd sure love to go fly an airplane one more time again." He'd been a pilot, which is sort of what got me inspired. And so I actually reached out to Darryl to see if he'd fly an airplane over. I live in Sacramento and he's in Reno, so it wouldn't be a terrible hop over the mountains. And it was just started getting into winter, and we talked about it. And he said, "Yeah, let's wait until it gets just a little bit warmer." And we were making plans to do this. And of course, as you know, he passed away
I know.
and at the end of January. And so we didn't make it happen. But even just to watch my dad, is on his face and sort of got this far away look of being able to go back and fly
Yeah,
again. He owned an airplane for a while, and it was, you get an opportunity to do this. So I sort of didn't maybe close the loop on this. If I'm a senior living operator and I'm watching this and I want to get you to come do dream flights in my community, how does that work?
just go to the website. There's an application on there, and just go to the website and fill out an application, or call Marilyn, our VP of operations, and apply. We don't, and we'll get a letter back saying, "Hey, we got your application," and this and that. So every January we kind of set our schedule. We ask for applications to come in between, by January 15, and then we build a tentative schedule and kind of decide where we're going to fly and who we're going to fly based on our requests. And so you might not get a lot of communication back, but as we get about a month out, we'll get a hold of communities and let them know that we're coming, and so they can plan and prepare. And back to your earlier comment, Steve, we encourage communities to take advantage of what they're doing. They made arrangements for us to come. They made that happen for their residents. Put it on social media, put it on your websites, use it. I mean, we're creating material for the senior living profession to use to tell our story, our senior living story, if you will. And so we love it when that happens. And we really want people to take advantage of what we're offering them. Totally, and we haven't done as good of a job of that. We're AHCA NCAL is one of our partners now, and they have been for 3 years, and we're working with some of their affiliates to start taking advantage of the work that we're doing anyways. I mean, we're going to give flights. Why not publicize it? Why not make the most of it and use that material?
Yeah. Yeah, it's such powerful storytelling, and I mean, one of the things you're so terrific at is storytelling just naturally, and I think that if you're struggling with your occupancy, these stories are the best thing that you can do to get people to have a positive impression, because this is really the big battle that people face. Am I going to be better off at home, or am I going to be better off in a senior living community? And this becomes a way of saying, "Hey, look, this would never happen if you're going to be at home. This will happen if you're in senior living. It gives you a
Right.
better life."
Yeah.
Right?
Well, and in communities that we do flights in, we send every dream flyer an 8x10 flight certificate with their picture. When we leave, we sign posters, 11x17 posters. We sign them and give them to senior living communities. And so my point to communities is look, post those things up, and when you've given a tour, go point to it. go show what you're making happen for people that move in. Because it's an attitude, right? If you're doing those kind of things, then you're probably doing a lot of other things right.
Exactly right. So where are you going to be this coming year?
This we'll be in 30 states this year. We'll probably fly in 30 states. I haven't totally added it up just yet, but I think it was around 30 or 31 states that we were scheduled to fly in. This next week I'll be in New Hampshire, New York, and Ohio just this next week.
Do you have any openings in any of the tours that you've got scheduled for this year?
We, we're oversubscribed. The last three
Okay.
have been oversubscribed, and so we have to. It's hard, and that's it's difficult, Steve. There's time. Sometimes bigger isn't better, and we have a sweet spot in our organization between 600 and 800 flights that this is personal to us. Our pilots, we're not just cranking out flights. This is a dream flight experience. Okay. The flight is just one little piece of it. We've actually shortened up our flights over the years because we want more time to listen to their stories, take pictures with families, and enhance that experience, right? So we're limited. We might get as many as 1,000 flights maybe in the next year or two, but we're not going to get much bigger than that,
Yeah.
because we will lose. I literally don't ever want to fail on creating a wonderful dream flight experience.
Yeah.
And so,
Yeah.
we're not going to blow it up and get 10 or 15 airplanes. We're going to keep it manageable, and we're going to keep literally making a difference in people's lives, one dream flight at a time.
Yeah, well, Daryl, it's such a powerful way to create these memories. And I know the other thing that we haven't really talked too much about is, but I know that I experienced when I came down and rode with you. Well, I think it was in Pleasanton, someplace in the Bay Area,
Yeah,
a
but
number of
well,
years
no, it was in Tracy. You came out
in
to Tracy.
Tracy.
Yeah,
Yeah, and it was so powerful that to watch the family members come with the residents, right? And I think it was as powerful a moment for the families as it was for the residents. It was it just I think talk about making an impact, making the world a better place.
yeah. No, it's. Look, I've done a lot of things. I've been involved in a lot of experiences, in my 60 years, but I have never done anything, Steve, where you literally in front of your eyes can see people change for the better. I mean, in a 20, 30-minute time frame, you can literally witness a change.
Oh,
It's addicting. I mean, it absolutely is addicting. And my wife, who's been very instrumental in this foundation, I'm telling you, she's never crew chief for me. She doesn't travel, but she has supported so much. I say, hey, I got to go to work. I got to go to New York and Ohio and whatever, and she'll smile and say, right.
yeah.
But I have to pinch myself, because how many people in life that get to do their two passions every day, and it's impacting people.
Absolutely right. Absolutely right. Well, Daryl, we are out of time. I want to say thank you for being a guest today. Thank you for your passion for changing the world of seniors, the world of veterans, for making it better. Thank you for the stories. The stories are amazing. Those are the reason we do this is be and we know that what we do works in the industry is because of the stories that we
Yeah.
experience and we hear from our colleagues. And so it's amazing. Also, I want to say again, thanks to KARE for sponsoring this episode. And I would, if you hold on for just a minute, we'll sign off. But thanks again for doing this.
You bet. Thanks, Steve. I appreciate it.